Chapter 1, Introduction to Objection Handling. All right, so before we move into objection handling, before we get into price objections, time objections, spouse objections, I'll think about it, and all of that, there's one thing we need to understand first. Most salespeople have been taught objection handling completely wrong. They have been taught that objections are problems, that objections are resistance, that objections means prospect is difficult, confused, and not serious. But in PEIQ sales, psychological, emotional, investigative questioning, we look at objections differently. We see objections as symptoms of uncertainty. That's it. Because think about this, people don't object to things they are fully certain about. Nobody walks into a restaurant, orders food they absolutely want, and then suddenly say, actually, let me think about it. That usually doesn't happen. Why? Because certainty removes hesitation and uncertainty creates hesitation. This is one of the biggest mindset shifts you need to make in sales, especially in the fitness industry. Because many front desk salespeople or fitness consultants hear objections every single day and they immediately become defensive. Someone says it's too expensive, and the salesperson instantly starts justifying the prices. Or someone says, I'll need to think about it, and now the salesperson starts chasing the customer. Or if someone says, I don't have the time, and the salesperson starts convincing them even more. But the problem is, the moment you start reacting emotionally to objections, you stop understanding the person right in front of you. And this is where most sales are lost. Because objection handling is not about fighting objections, it's about understanding why the objection exists in the first place. That's the difference. Now, let me say something really important here. In this course, I'm not going to teach you how to manipulate people. It's not going to teach you about pressurizing tactics. I'm not going to be teaching you how to overcome objections by talking more. In fact, a lot of times, the more a salesperson talks, the worse the sales becomes. Because people don't like being pushed, especially when it comes to selling fitness. Nobody wants to feel trapped into buying a gym membership. Nobody wants to feel pressurized into purchasing personal training. People want to feel understood. And when people feel understood, they lower their guard. That's where PEIQ sales becomes very powerful because the entire foundation of this communication style is based on asking the right questions in the right tone and in the right time. Not interrogating people, not sounding robotic, not sounding scripted, but genuinely understanding what's going on emotionally inside the prospect's mind. Because every objection is connected to an emotion, even logical objections. For example, when somebody says it's too expensive, that sounds very logical on the surface, right? But underneath that objection is something usually emotional. Maybe fear of making the wrong decision, fear of wasting money, fear of failing all over again, fear that they won't stay consistent with the fitness program, fear that they will join the gym and then quit after 2 months, and stuff like that. And if you don't understand the emotional side of objections, you'll always respond on a surface level. And surface level responses create surface level salespeople. Now, another important thing I want you to understand, objection handling does not start when the objection happens. Now, this is huge. Most salespeople think objection handling begins at the end of a conversation. That's actually wrong. Great objection handling actually starts at the beginning of the conversation. Why? Because the quality of your conversation, the quality of your questions determine the quality of the sale. And if you rush the process, if you talk too much, if you pitch too early, if you don't understand the prospect deep enough, then the objection becomes stronger later. But when people feel heard, when they feel emotionally connected to their own reasons for joining, when they feel understood instead of being feeling sold, objections naturally reduce. Not because you used any magic words, but because certainty had increased. And this is exactly why in PEIQ sales, questioning becomes more important than actually pitching. The average salesperson believes something like this: the better I explain, the more people will buy. But a top salesperson understands: the better I understand the client more, the more they will buy. Now that's a big difference, especially inside gyms, because selling gym memberships is actually emotional. People are not joining to buy access to your equipment. They are buying confidence for themselves. They're buying the energy that they want. They're buying transformations. They're buying self-esteem, health, attraction, discipline. Sometimes they're even buying hope. And if you only focus on the features and prices, you miss the real person and the real thing that person came for. Now, throughout this course, we're going to break down objections in detail. We'll cover the psychology behind them, we'll cover the emotional certainty, we'll cover the tonality, and we'll also look at structured questioning. Why prospects pull away, why people say, I'll think about it, why people ghost after showing interest and then don't show up, and most importantly, how to approach objections calmly without sounding desperate, pushy, or aggressive. Because objection handling is not about controlling people, it's about guiding people towards clarity. That's the goal. And once you understand that, sales starts feeling a lot more natural. So before moving to the next chapter, I want you to remember one sentence. Objections are rarely rejections. Most of the time, they're simply uncertainty being expressed out loud. And your job is not to fight uncertainty. Your job is simply to understand it.